break a little news on your program here that I spoke with a detective earlier today, and effective Monday, this investigation will essentially be moved to the task force entirely.
We've all acknowledged there's a ransom note. It appears to me that the investigators aren't 100% convinced it's legit.
A number of important developments have unfolded over the past week in the investigation into the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, and some of them may significantly reshape how investigators understand what happened the night she vanished. On March 2nd, Tommaso appeared publicly for the first time in weeks. He was seen walking alongside Annie and Savannah Guthrie as they approached the memorial outside Nancy Guthrie's home. The moment was brief, but it immediately drew attention online. Within hours, people began comparing Keon's height, posture, and gait to the masked individual seen in the surveillance footage on Nancy Guthrie's porch. Side-by-side comparisons circulated widely across social media, with viewers studying the way he walked, the way his shoulders moved, and how his height matched up next to Savannah's. That discussion has not faded, and we will return to it later. But another development that occurred during the same week may prove even more important, and it has received far less attention. On March 6th, FBI agents working alongside detectives from the Pima County Sheriff's Department returned to the Catalina Foothills neighborhood where Nancy Guthrie lived and began conducting door-to-door interviews. What made those visits unusual was not the presence of federal investigators, but the question they were asking. Residents say agents were not asking about suspicious vehicles or unfamiliar faces in the neighborhood. Instead, they were asking about Wi-Fi. Specifically, investigators wanted to know whether homeowners experienced internet disruptions during the early morning hours of February 1st, the night Nancy Guthrie disappeared. Multiple residents later confirmed to NBC News that federal agents asked them that exact question. According to those homeowners, investigators explained that several people in the neighborhood had already reported internet glitches that night. News Nation reporter Brian Enton spoke with one neighbor whose home sits near Nancy Guthrie's property, and that conversation revealed a detail investigators now consider significant. The neighbor explained that when he reviewed his security footage from the night of February 1st, his Ring camera history for that night simply did not exist. The recordings were not corrupted and they had not been overwritten. They were simply unavailable. The homeowner said this had never happened before. But what stood out even more was the pattern of the outage. Not all the cameras on the property stopped working. Only the cameras located on the side of the house facing Nancy Guthrie's property lost their connection. Cameras positioned on the opposite side of the same house continued recording normally throughout the night. The entire system was connected to the same router, the same internet service provider, and the same electrical supply. Yet only the cameras pointing toward Nancy Guthrie's home went offline. Investigators say that pattern does not resemble a general internet outage. If the home had lost internet service entirely, every device connected to the network would have dropped offline at the same time. Instead, the disruption appears directional. Cameras with a line of sight toward Nancy Guthrie's property stopped recording, while cameras facing away from the property continued operating normally. That distinction is critical because it suggests the disruption may not have been accidental. To understand why this detail matters, investigators are examining how wireless interference actually works. When people hear the phrase Wi-Fi jammer, they often imagine a device that shuts down every wireless signal in the surrounding area. Traditional jammers operate by flooding the radio spectrum with noise. Most home Wi-Fi networks operate on the 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz frequency bands, and a brute force jammer overwhelms those frequencies so devices cannot communicate. The effect is similar to someone shouting in a quiet room. Phones, security cameras, smart thermostats, and other wireless devices lose the ability to connect. Even relatively inexpensive jammers can disrupt signals within a limited radius. However, investigators believe the technical evidence in this case does not fully match the behavior of a brute force jammer. Nancy Guthrie's Nest doorbell camera still captured footage showing a masked individual standing on the porch, footage that investigators eventually recovered. If a high-powered jammer had been operating near the house, the camera likely would have lost connectivity before capturing anything at all. There is another important detail as well. Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker continued communicating with her Apple device through a Bluetooth connection until approximately 2:28 a.m., about 41 minutes after the doorbell camera lost its connection. Bluetooth signals operate within the same general wireless spectrum, and a powerful jammer would likely have disrupted both signals simultaneously. Retired FBI agent Jennifer Coffindaffer pointed out this contradiction while discussing the case publicly. According to her analysis, whatever interfered with the cameras does not appear to have been a full-spectrum Wi-Fi jammer. Instead, the disruption may have been far more selective. Technology specialists say there is another method capable of producing exactly that type of selective outage. It is known as a deauthentication attack. Unlike a jammer that floods radio frequencies with noise, a deauthentication device works by sending commands within the Wi-Fi protocol itself. These commands instruct specific devices to disconnect from their network. The router receives the command and interprets it as legitimate, believing the device initiated the request. At the same time, the device believes the router initiated the disconnect. As a result, the targeted device drops its connection. Because the command appears to be normal network traffic, it can be difficult to detect. Most importantly, the attack can be directed at individual devices rather than affecting every device on the network. If such a technique were used near Nancy Guthrie's home, it could explain why only certain cameras stopped recording while others on the same network remained online. Cameras facing the direction of the attacker could be targeted and forced offline, while cameras positioned behind the house might never receive the command at all. Security researchers say tools capable of performing these attacks are widely available. Some devices are small enough to fit inside a pocket, and several models can be controlled through a smartphone. Many cost less than $50. That detail becomes particularly relevant when investigators review the surveillance footage from Nancy Guthrie's porch. In the video, the masked individual appears to have an object in his pocket with a visible antenna. Former FBI agent Tracy Walder noted that detail and suggested it could represent either a walkie-talkie or a signal disruption device. Both possibilities are significant. If the device was a walkie-talkie, it would suggest the suspect may have been communicating with someone else nearby, perhaps a lookout or driver coordinating the operation. That scenario would imply more than one person was involved. If the device was used to disrupt wireless signals, it would indicate the suspect had at least some understanding of network technology and may have intentionally prepared to disable surveillance systems before approaching the house. Investigators are now working to reconstruct exactly which cameras in the neighborhood lost connectivity and when those disruptions occurred. By comparing homeowner reports with router logs and data from internet service providers, analysts may be able to determine the geographic range of the disruption. Most devices capable of interfering with wireless signals operate within limited distances. That means the person using the device would likely have been positioned somewhere close to the homes affected. Authorities are also analyzing additional digital evidence from the night Nancy Guthrie disappeared. Surveillance cameras located roughly 2.5 miles from her home captured a vehicle traveling through the area around 2:36 a.m. Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker stopped transmitting data at approximately 2:28 a.m. And investigators say the drive between those two locations takes about 6 minutes. The timeline appears consistent. Cameras located near Nancy Guthrie's property experienced disruptions, while cameras farther away continued functioning normally. Former Pima County Sheriff's Deputy Eric Maldonado, who spent nearly 30 years investigating crimes in the Catalina foothills area, has offered additional insight. Maldonado explained that suspects sometimes target homes located in neighborhoods they already know well. Individuals living nearby may naturally become familiar with security cameras, traffic patterns, and daily routines simply by passing the homes regularly. Someone who lives in the area would not necessarily stand out in cell tower data because their phone would normally connect to the same towers every day. Maldonado also emphasized another important point. In many violent crimes, the victim's body becomes the most important piece of forensic evidence because it may contain DNA or other traces identifying the perpetrator. Removing the victim from the scene eliminates that evidence. Investigators say that possibility may help explain why Nancy Guthrie herself remains central to the ongoing search. Authorities are also examining data that may exist in Nancy Guthrie's home router. Smartphones constantly send signals known as probe requests while scanning for available Wi-Fi networks. Even if a phone never connects to the network, the router may record the device's identifier when it enters range. If the suspect had a phone with Wi-Fi enabled while near the house, that device may have left a digital trace in the router's logs. Residents have also reported unusual activity involving pets during the same time frame. One neighbor said their dog woke them during the night and insisted on going outside, behavior that was highly unusual. When the dog was outside, the owner said it appeared focused toward Nancy Guthrie's property. Maldonado noted that dogs can often detect sounds or frequencies humans cannot hear, though investigators have not confirmed what the animal may have sensed. Taken together, investigators say the emerging evidence suggests the person responsible for Nancy Guthrie's disappearance may have had familiarity with the neighborhood and its surveillance systems. The suspect appears to have understood where cameras were located, which direction they faced, and how to approach the property without immediately attracting attention. The investigation itself is also becoming more focused. A dedicated task force has been assembled, consisting of detectives from the Pima County Sheriff's Department working alongside FBI agents in Tucson. Officials say the goal is to bring together all available evidence and analyze it collectively as the investigation continues. Savannah Guthrie has indicated she plans to return to work, though she acknowledged that the family has begun confronting the possibility that Nancy Guthrie may not be alive. What they continue to seek is clarity about what happened and where Nancy may be. Investigators believe the same technology the suspect may have attempted to manipulate could ultimately provide the clues needed to identify them. Wireless devices, routers, and mobile phones all generate digital records. By examining those records carefully, authorities hope to identify the individual responsible and determine exactly what happened during the early morning hours of February 1st. Anyone with information about unusual activity, internet disruptions, or unfamiliar individuals in the Catalina foothills area around that time is encouraged to contact investigators. Officials say even small details may prove important as the investigation moves forward.